Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. There has never been a time more powerful than today to be alive. The only time more exciting than today for me is tomorrow. We're living in a time where every single one of us have access to more knowledge, more computational power, more capital, to change the world than any time ever before. The question is, what do you want to do with it? What change do you want to make on this planet? What problem do you want to solve? Here's the challenge. Our brains, the way we think. Today, we're living in this world, in a world where things are not changing century to century or decade to decade. They're not even changing year to year. They're changing month to month. And if I were to graph this red line, it's all of us. It's our children. It's our politicians. It's our clients, our customers. We have not had any change in millions of years. But the technology that I'm going to be speaking about, that you're here to learn about, computers, networks, sensors, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, augmented and virtual reality, drones, blockchain, all of these technologies are doubling in power every year. And the difference between us humans, these linear, individuals on the planet, and this exponential technology, the difference is either disruptive stress or opportunity, depending on your point of view. I want to tell a story. It's a story I wrote about in my second book, Bold, and it's the story of this company, Kodak, and many of you might remember this company. And in 1996, Kodak was at the top of its game. It had $28 billion of revenue, 140,000 employees. And you might remember going and buying Kodak film, right? And you would pay for all the film to be produced before you found out whether you got your photo. What most people don't know is that 20 years earlier, in 1976, in the labs at Kodak, Kodak had invented the digital camera. But when the creators of the digital camera walked into the boardroom of Kodak and said, "Here it is, the future of photography," the board and the leadership of Kodak said, "You're kidding. That digital camera takes 0.01 megapixel images in black and white on a tape recorder. We're Kodak. We make beautiful high-resolution images." And then they said, "By the way, we're in the paper and chemicals business." You see, they forgot what business they were truly in. When the creator of Kodak founded the company, his goal was to help preserve people's memories. And they never jumped on the new technology. And so a few decades later, 2012, Kodak files for bankruptcy, put out of business by the very technology that they had invented, but they never took advantage of. In the same year that Kodak went bankrupt, another company, also in the business of preserving people's memories, a company called Instagram, got acquired by Facebook for $1 billion, but they had 13 employees. So I've given this moment in time where a linear thinking company gets disrupted by exponential technologies. I call it the new Kodak moment. And we're going to see a lot of these. So this is what it looks like. That orange line taking off is digital photography, exploding as it is using exponential technologies. That yellow line at the bottom is film photography, falling off a cliff. And I mentioned that Instagram was purchased for $1 billion by Facebook. And by the way, when that happened, people laughed and they said, "How can you pay $1 billion for a photo sharing app?" Well, guess what? Today, it's worth $100 billion on Facebook's balance sheet. So we're going to see this over and over and over again. Here is the challenge. As as CEOs, as executives, as entrepreneurs. We are constantly needing to question our business, not to defend it, right? If you defend the way you do business, you're ignoring everything else. If you're constantly questioning, how could I do this differently? How could I do this 10 times cheaper? How could I do this 10 times bigger? It challenges your premises. So we're going from I have an idea to I run a billion-dollar company faster than ever before. When I talk about exponential growth, what does that even mean? What does that feel like? So all of this exponential growth is growing on top of computation. And this guy over here is a guy named Gordon Moore. He was one of the founders of Intel. They started Intel in 1958. 7 years later, Gordon Moore publishes a very famous paper in which he says, we've noticed something at Intel. The number of transistors on a piece of silicon has doubled every 12 to 18 months for the same dollar investment. And it's likely to continue. Well, it's continued for 50 years, and we now call it Moore's Law. The idea that every year or every 2 years, you're getting twice as much computation for the same dollar investment. This chart starts in the year 1900 and it goes to 2010. On the left-hand side is the amount of computational power you could buy for $1,000. And what it shows us is that over the last 110 years, the amount of computer power you can buy is growing exponentially. In fact, it's growing faster than an exponential, because that's a log scale on the left. And it's likely to continue, and when it does, what you get is incredible. By 2023, 5 years from now, $1,000 will buy you the computational power of the human brain. And then 25 years later, $1,000 now buys you the computational power of 8 billion people, the entire human race. We are growing exponentially across the board. You have access to more wealth, knowledge, technology than any time ever. What's the most important thing is your mindset. If you believe you can't, then you're right. A negative mindset has never given you a positive life. So again, what do we think of as truly scarce? I'll posit to you that there is nothing really truly scarce. Technology is converting it. Energy, water, healthcare, learning, time, money, resources, expertise, communication. All of these things are becoming more and more abundant every single minute as technology is driving us towards this future. Let's talk about a few of these things. Let's talk about resource abundance. Do we have the resources? Do we have the rare earth metals to create the batteries and to create the computers that we desire? Let's talk about communications abundance. Last year, there were 3.8 billion people connected on planet Earth, half the world. By 2024, in the next 6 years, we're connecting every single human on the planet's surface. Right? What this means is that 4.2 billion new minds who've never uploaded or downloaded anything, never bought anything online, 4 billion new customers are coming online. If they're not your customer, they're your customer's customer. Right? It's a massive explosion. What are these people going to want to create, consume, discover, invent? They represent tens of trillions of dollars flowing into the global economy that no one's talking about. They also represent this massive explosion in entrepreneurial energy. These people are going to find problems and solve problems and create new businesses. If you thought things were moving fast, hold on. Things are about to get much faster. You can ask questions like you could never ask. So I teach my children the most important thing for them is to ask great questions. It's not what you know, it's the quality of the questions you ask. As an executive, that is the single most important skill you have to learn. Because when you can know anything, it's the questions you ask that differentiate you. This is a time where every one of you have access to more knowledge, capital, computational power than the heads of governments had just 20 or 30 years ago. What do you care about? What do you want to solve? I can think of no nation on the planet that can benefit more from these exponential technologies than Brazil. And I can tell you from being at Singularity University, every single class has more Brazilians than any other country in the world. So the hunger is here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be back again. I look forward to our continuing journey together. Thank you.